It seems that it's been a very long, cold, damp winter with very few clear nights, lots and lots of cloud coming through, and I haven't really done much imaging for many months. That's partly been due to the weather conditions, but to be frank, I've had quite a few other projects on, which you'll hear about in another vlog. So I thought it was time to try something different, and I think I might have found a solution as a counter to those cold, dark nights, and I'm going to do something I've not done before. I'm going to image a different star, for which I actually do need some specialist equipment. So let's get the roof off and let's start some imaging. This is my new piece of kit. It's a Quark eyepiece. You can see the nose piece here. This is the Quark filter, which houses a 4x Barlow lens and an Etalon, which cuts down the light coming from the sun to around 656 nanometers at a very narrow band pass. This is the tilting wedge, which will get rid of any Newton's rings as a result of diffraction in the scope. I've got an extension. This is a ZWO or ZWO ASI 120 MMS monochrome camera, which I've had for quite a couple of years. I've used it quite a lot for guiding and for imaging the moon, but not really for solar. When I was at a star party in the Isle of Wight a couple of years ago, I actually had a cable snag and it damaged the connector here on the side. I sent it off to the folks in China and it came back within about 6 weeks, fully repaired and fully working again, so I was super happy with their after-sales service. This is my Quark Chromosphere filter. I just got it during the week and this is the first time that I've used it. See, I'm using a Baader UV IR cutoff filter in front of the Quark assembly to basically protect the system and stop any radiation and heat building up in the assembly. It seems to work quite well. It's recommended in refractors up to 150 millimeters. So I chose to get a Quark filter, or eyepiece as it's called. I was looking at solar telescopes. I looked at the Lunts, and I think they've just released a new 40 or 50 mil Lunt solar scope, and I was about to get that when a friend of mine said, oh, 60 mil is about the optimum. So I started to look at those, and the cost of them, to be honest, was quite high, especially for something that I've not done before. Looking around on the internet, I did my research and decided to get one of the Quark eyepieces. I know you can get Chromosphere or prominence models, but I've been told that the Chromosphere also allow you to view the prominences. The Quark filter needs to be connected to power so it can heat up the Etalon to the correct temperature. It takes about 10 minutes. The light's now turned green, so it's ready for use. I hadn't noticed how dirty the main objective had got on my telescope. The dust and dirt on the scope is as obvious when you use it at night, and to be frank, I'm quite reluctant to clean it. However, I can still see quite a lot of artifacts on the image. The same as for nighttime astrophotography, I can just take a series of flats and then subtract them from the image when I'm done, and that should remove all the dirt and artifacts that I can see in the images, because there's really quite a lot of those. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to actually find the sun up in the sky. It's so big and bright, but it is quite difficult, particularly with the 4x magnification provided by the Barlow. So I fitted a solar finder to the scope. So my son printed this on his 3D printer. We found the design on Thingiverse and it's actually pretty useful and it works really well. So I can go to the sun every time just by centering the bright spot in the middle of the finder. I'm running a Parallels desktop on my MacBook Air, and on there I've got loaded various Windows programs which I want to use for imaging. I've got Sequence Generator Pro, I've got the Celotex Focuser, and I've got Sharp Cap, which I'm going to use for image capture. I know from looking at the website of the Solar Dynamics Observatory that there's quite a nice sunspot on the face of the sun today, and there's also some quite nice prominences. So I'm hoping I can find those, although it's proving very difficult behind all this cloud. So while it's been cloudy, I've been reading about solar astro imaging, and what I'm aiming to do today is to take some flats of the sun to get rid of the artifacts that I've got in the image train. I want to take a well exposed image of the disk of the sun so I can see the granularity on its face, and then by overexposing the disk I should be able to pick up some prominences. So when I combine those I should have a nice image of the sun which is well calibrated with prominences and granularity on the sun's surface. I guess at this stage I do need to give the warning that you should never look at the sun with your naked eye. You should never look at it through a telescope or binoculars, and you should never point a camera or telescope at it unless it's been properly protected with a custom-made filter or some sort of protection. It can cause blindness or very serious injury or damage to your equipment. Looking at the sun through the camera on the screen, there isn't as much detail as I was expecting. Maybe that's just my experience as a beginner, and once I've used Auto Stack it and processed the images, maybe I will be able to see all the granulation on the surface of the sun and maybe some of the prominences as well. One of the challenges in the bright sunshine is actually seeing the screen, so I've got my black fleece thrown over the top of my bin and my laptop inside makes it much easier to see. Since I cleaned the objective lens, certainly the artifacts are produced on the image, but not as much as I thought. I've been trying to tune the Quark by turning the tuning button on the side. It takes about 10 minutes between turning to a new setting for it to come to temperature. I've been taking an image every time I've changed it so I can compare them once I've finished. There are some really nice prominences around the edge of the sun today. The software that I'm using is Cut 3.2, the 64-bit version. I use that to capture the images of the sun. Then once I've got those, I will use Auto Stack it to clean them up, because I'm basically taking video files, and Auto Stack it extracts the best and stacks them into single frames. Then I'm going to use Affinity Photo to stitch them together and to produce something that hopefully is worth looking at. This is my first attempt, and there's lots of videos online which show you how to process images of the sun, and I would emphasise that this is my first attempt. I'm just starting out. I think that's about as far as I can get today, because the sun's now gone behind the tree, and as the tree's now coming out in leaf, it's actually quite difficult to see anything at all. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel.